Okay, restraint. Now, restraint is essentially a golden rule to using description, which means that essentially, like I mentioned at the beginning, description, you need to have it for a reason, you need to know why you're putting it there. The other thing is also having restraint, and that the description you put in there is kept to a minimum. And that you don't, even if you're writing a descriptive story, it's better to underdo it than overdo it. That probably goes against the philosophy that you were taught in primary school, where you can start to use something which we call the economy of language. And an economy of language refers to saying what needs to be said in the least amount. And that's what we're looking at here. So, now I've made mention before about a number of things about saying what needs to be said and sort of ignoring the rest. This is the idea of what an economy of language is about, isn't that going overboard with certain descriptions, that you're not continuing to exaggerate, you're always keeping a sort of an open but yet closed mind as well about some of the things that you want to be doing. So if you're going to describe someone in one particular way, then you've got to hold a bit of restraint, you've got to sort of show a bit of control over what you use and how you describe them. If you've got this really good line that comes to mind and go, ooh, really want to put that in, and there's no place for it, then you need to take it out no matter how good it is. It's one of the most painful things to do for a writer, believe me, is when they come up with a brilliant line that makes absolutely no sense. In which case they've got to cut it, and it takes them a long time to do it. So essentially in writing circles, it's called sort of, dare I say, killing babies, because it's almost like killing your children. It's not a particularly glamorous term by any means. It's one of those things that it shows that they are able to restrain themselves when they're writing some sort of descriptions, is that they're able to cut things which are precious lines of description, which they've put a lot of thought and effort into and all those sorts of things. So you need to have that sort of restraint. The benefit of this is it creates flow and enhances its effect. And as I said, you do have to cut things you like. You do have to cut things that sound good. You need to be really aware of being able to have that power to do that sort of thing and say, it doesn't matter if it's good or not, it needs to be cut because it doesn't make sense where it is. That's one of the things that you need to have. It's more important and more direct to have this economy of language, as I mentioned before. And so particularly when I'm saying direct, it's going straight to what you want people to be feeling, because believe it or not, those really good descriptions, they do get found out, and I've got this really good line in there and it makes no sense. I'm sort of confused and going, well, hang on, why have you said that? It might be a great line, but it doesn't really make sense where it is. And I've lost myself. I'm not part of the story anymore. Again, I'm back to being a teacher marking your work. So it's one of those things that really does come across in story writing, and even if it might sound really good to you, if it doesn't fit, and if it doesn't fit into the flow of the story or the effect of the story, then it needs to go. One of those things that really is, as I said, it is painful sometimes. Showing this directness gives you a stronger mark, and that's something that you really do need to be mindful of. Anyway, that's about it for using description. So just remember those basic sorts of rules, that you sort of control the use of language, you show what needs to be shown, that you direct it towards what you actually want the reader to think about your story and your characters, and particularly the things you want them to be feeling. Really focus on doing that strategy of showing things but using other kinds of language, and trying to vary things up, not using cliches and boring old things that let someone who's marking your work fall asleep over whatever you write. Being mindful of the fact that your marker is someone who's reading and enjoying your work. So try and make it something where you do put some attention to detail, that you edit your work particularly, and that it has a sense of flow, and that if you read it aloud, you can read it and they can read it as well. Because if you can't read it, if you read it aloud, then when your teacher's marking it, they're going to be stopping every 5 seconds to correct things, and they don't want to be doing that. And certainly, they're going to give you a lower mark if they do. But otherwise, until next time, I'll see you later.